Picture a kitchen counter at 9:40 on a Tuesday night. You've been grading since dinner. Finally, you close the laptop, stand up to stretch, and a screen lights up in the dark. It's a message from a parent. For a teacher in a typical school, that buzz is an annoyance. For a teacher in a faith-based school, it usually triggers something heavier. There is an immediate, quiet guilt that suggests ignoring the message means failing the family, and that setting a limit is a spiritual failure of your ministry. Research on vocational calling identifies this dynamic. The Cardis Education Survey shows Christian educators consistently start with higher job satisfaction than public school peers. But that deep sense of purpose has a shadow side. Because the job is framed as a ministry, teachers slowly lose the psychological permission to ever turn it off. That is the calling trap. The exact trait that makes these teachers so effective, their deep personal investment in the souls of their students, becomes the exact mechanism that wears them down. This chart maps how wear happens using the Moslock burnout inventory. The clinical framework tracks burnout across 3 dimensions. For teachers, 2 pillars fill up rapidly: emotional exhaustion and depersonalization, where you start seeing students as problems. This line graph overlay correlates that exhaustion directly with the demands on a teacher's time. Data from the Rand Corporation reveals a massive spike in after-hours parent communication. As the volume of 9 p.m. emails climbs, the exhaustion pillar rises right alongside it. These teachers are not running empty because they stopped caring. They are running empty because they operate in a system that demands infinite care, and infinite care is structurally impossible for a human being to sustain indefinitely without boundaries. The expectation that a teacher should be constantly available rests on a view of labor born in the Industrial Revolution. It equates faithfulness with relentless output, treating the educator like a machine on an assembly line. That is not how the New Testament describes faithful work. The Gospel of Mark records Jesus actively withdrawing from the crowds, specifically when the demands multiplied. Right in the middle of urgent life-or-death ministry, he told his disciples to come away to a quiet place and rest. If the creator of the universe modeled hard limits during his ministry, expecting an educator to work continuously without pause is a secular trap. It is not a spiritual mandate. Consider the original Sabbath command. God gave this instruction to an entire population of former slaves, who had no concept of a weekend. It was an intervention for people whose identity had been forged by production without pause, reminding them that they were allowed to stop. That pause is what makes the Hebrew concept of shalom possible. Shalom means wholeness, peace, and integration across every dimension of life. Serving from a place of shalom is the absolute prerequisite for the relational work of teaching. You can feel the difference in the classroom. A teacher operating from shalom brings patience, creativity, and a genuine attention that students pick up on immediately. A teacher operating from severe depletion has almost none of that left to give. This means drawing a boundary is not building a wall to protect yourself from your calling. A boundary is the vital structure you build to protect your capacity to fulfill that calling over an entire career. Translating that theology into an actual Tuesday requires operationalizing it. Teachers need exact, polite language ready to deploy when demands cross the line. It starts with the 9:40 p.m. auto-reply. The script is simple. I am offline for the evening to rest and be with my family. I look forward to giving your message my full attention tomorrow morning. It warmly redirects the communication without making the parent feel ignored. Then there is the add-on task pushback. When leadership brings you a new initiative, you ask, which of my current commitments should I pause to make room for this? This forces the administration to prioritize rather than just piling on. The same discipline applies everywhere else. Defend a strict weekly rhythm that guarantees a full day of recovery on the weekend, and firmly redirect any student text messages back to official school email channels. These scripts might feel uncomfortable the first few times you use them, but deploying them transforms boundary setting from an abstract HR concept into a profound, daily act of faithful stewardship. Individual boundaries will inevitably collapse if they lack institutional cover. School leaders have to build the walls that protect their teachers. The first 2 systemic fixes or structural. Publish a clear communication covenant for parents that outlines exactly when teachers will and will not respond. And strictly enforce end times for all staff meetings so the hours don't continuously bleed. The next two fixes are cultural. Leaders must actively discourage an after-hours email culture among their own staff and shift leadership check-ins to focus on a teacher's current capacity, not just their latest performance metrics. We return to that dark kitchen counter at 9:40 p.m. The screen lights up, but this time, instead of opening the laptop back up, you reach over and deliberately place the phone face down. Faithful teaching over a lifetime looks radically different from faithful teaching just for next Tuesday. You are allowed to stop. God holds what you set down.